You don't get over an addiction by stopping using. You recover by creating a new life where it's easier for you not to use. If you don't create a new life, then all the factors that brought you to your addiction will catch up with you again. That really hits home. This is Collateral Damage, addiction, recovery, and all the shit in between. So let's get real. Let's get raw. Now your host, Brandy Mack.
Good morning. I think it's morning. I think it's close to noon. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so it is July 14th. I wasn't going to make a podcast today because this is my only day off, but we all know, those who've been following some of this drama, that Sam Davis, the interventionist, had decided to go live at 9 p.m. last night. Those who also know, I decided to go live at the same time because I did not want to watch him basically not really answer anything that I've wanted him to answer openly. He didn't take questions because I did have another phone set up and I recorded the live mainly just for legal purposes, as far as him continuing to share information that he didn't need to share. And that was just something, if he tries to take me to court for what he claims, I will be fully ready for all discovery processes because I have a lot of information. But what I want to talk about is I did watch the live before I went to bed last night, what I had recorded. And I felt sorry for the guy. As bad as my family, what he has done to my family, and just not acknowledging his behaviors, not even admitting to being unethical in any way, not admitting to violating my daughter's, health protected information. Which he still didn't do. He still denied. And I still left that that live, feeling sorry for the man. And I'm kind of angry that I feel that way. People had come into my live afterwards, and some were saying that he didn't take accountability, he didn't make amends, and other people were saying that they felt he did. And so that was a big reason why I decided to watch it last night. Did he make amends? No, I don't think he made amends. Did he admit to some things that I was surprised about? Yes. The gist of, to me, what the whole lie was about was him basically admitting that greed was a big factor of why he helped my family out. Because if my daughter had gotten sober and stayed sober, how good it would make him look. That is what was repeatedly what I felt like I was hearing when he would ramble on. He knew I had a large following and how this would make him look really, really good. And that actually, that made me sad because everything he said to me and some of the messages when I started reaching out for help, because I trusted this man. I felt like I could trust him. I felt like he believed in ethical treatment and legitimate treatment. And hearing him speak last night, it really seems that everything is success driven. It's driven by money. And I get money makes the world go round, right? But I just thought that was really sad, because that shouldn't be what makes you want to be in that field. I'm not in my field where I see people die all the time for money. because I can tell you, seeing what I have seen in my, over 10 years of being in the medical field, I should make a lot more money. We all should, than what we make. So that made me rather sad, hearing him openly say that. Something else that he, talking about, he got involved. He decided to speak out because he wanted to protect his friends. And something I had said to him in a text a few days ago before he blocked me was how he had no right to discredit my experience and my daughter's experience with Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. And I never blamed him. Like, I left him out of it, which he didn't exactly say out loud, that specifically. He kind of hinted about that. I talked about it in my live when people came over. But I did not blame him for how the facility handled my situation. Like, just as far as what I dealt with the therapist, and then when I learned what my daughter had been dealing with when she was inpatient, because we were cut off from each other for over 90 days. I didn't blame him. I looked at what he did as still a huge favor in him trying to help. It was when he started going into comments and saying horrible things that showed just he really doesn't know what being a professional means. It's just very different on the medical side than it is clearly on the addiction treatment side. You just can't get away with acting the way he did on my side. He talked some about the relationship with the therapist, and these are a couple things I kind of want to talk about because he knows the truth, but he kind of skipped around on things. So when it came to the therapist, Tara, all right, I talked about this therapist. I was not a fan. It wasn't that I wasn't a fan of, like, I felt like she cared about my daughter just in conversation, but it was always the sky was falling. And Sam didn't touch on that, but I talked about it in my videos. There was never any positive feedback. All I am hearing is negative feedback every time she would call, that my daughter's going to leave anytime. My daughter's going to leave anytime. And it was I was so stressed out from those phone calls. And then when I'm being told, on one of the calls, it's imminent, she's going to leave, anytime, I'm like, can I speak to her? Because my daughter's left treatment before. I've talked about this. She's left treatment before. And sometimes just getting, she was cut off from her family, getting to talk to her family would make a difference. And, they weren't willing to consider, and we were already out of that 45 max, as they said, blackout period. So, and I completely complied with that. I never questioned the 30-day, and even when it went to 45 days, I didn't complain. I didn't do any of it. We knew going in, that's what we were told. So I wasn't trying to buck the system. I didn't start to buck the system until they weren't giving me reasons why the blackout period continued to get extended. I just wasn't getting any reasons. And so I did at one point tell Tara to fucking not call me. I did. I made a video about this, and it was because they were refusing. She had been there. This was past the 45-day period. And I was just beyond frustrated with this therapist and not getting answers on things. And I'm on a release of information from my daughter, and I'm just done with this facility at this point. I think I had gotten into it with people trying to call my daughter because I was going to send somebody actually do a well check on her. And I did. I told her just to fucking leave me alone. And that's because I had to step away, because I was not going to be an easy person to deal with at that point, because I was so fucking pissed off at this therapist. And I did. It wasn't a permanent thing. So it lasted 2 weeks, and I was cut off anyways over that time. And so I just didn't want to speak to her. That's kind of what it came down to. And then I came around and started speaking to her again. And, and there's been this false information put out there that I didn't do the work. And so the only work, it was recommended. It was saying that I needed to try to find a, I don't know. They didn't say necessarily a therapist, but I think they implied a recovery coach. I guess what you could say, like what Sam does, helping families or whatnot. And I was in a fellowship. I was making $60,000 a year, and I made a lot more money than that when I was a hospitalist. Okay, a lot more money. Before my daughter showed up wanting treatment, I had taken this fellowship. Okay, all of a sudden she wanted treatment. I had no extra money. I mean, we were having to sell things just to pay our bills. I could not afford to pay for a therapist, a coach, all that during that time. And I was very open about that, because there was no extra money, but I was also paying for a therapist for my daughter's sister who was really struggling. And because insurance is a joke, I was paying $350 a month for her to have a therapist. And she needed that. She was going through such a rough time. And I do not regret spending that money on my other daughter at all. That is where that extra money went. And I was very open at the fact that I could not afford to do that. It wasn't going to happen. And I had people donate money for the GoFundMe for my daughter. I'm not going to go online and ask people to donate money to help pay for my therapy. Okay. And that was the thing, is that my other daughter, it was tough. We paid for it for 6 months for her. And like I said, I don't regret it at all. But that was the only thing they had recommended to me. There was no other work. They give you assignments, you have to write a letter about an impact letter is what they call it. I did that. I did that right away. I had my mom do hers. My other daughter did hers. Impact letters, anything that was an assignment was done. I complied with everything. And so, him insinuating that I just was fuck you, I'm not talking to you. There were specific reasons surrounding when I said that, and that was because I had to step away. If you've ever been to a point, I know some of you recognize that I care very much about my kids, and I'm very passionate about certain things. And when I'm seeing just this weird, shady shit going on this side of the treatment side, and she's been to numerous treatment centers. It was just, there were just, I was starting to feel like there were red flags then, but I was cut off from her, so I couldn't find out. If she was doing decent, my whole thing was her. I just wanted her to be able to get better. Right. And I wanted her to be in the place she needed to be to do that. And so my frustration was with this therapist. And I was just very, very vocal about it. And, there's nothing new there. I made a video about it. It's on my TikTok, because I'm very transparent. And so he had talked about that. I also the excuse he gave, one of them about not wanting to go live with me because of the fact that he had to sit on a couch next to me for 5 hours in St. Augustine, and all I did was talk the whole time. let's talk about that story. One of the things that Sam did in that live last night was he brought Jason Crane's name into this. And I have not said Jason's name. I met Jason, and I really, in the interaction I had with Jason, who owns a rehab in St. Augustine, I really liked the guy. I did. He just seemed like a good human. And whether or not that's true, because I'm questioning everything about anyone I've ever met in this industry, I don't know. But because Jason never caused any harm to me, didn't cause any harm to my daughter, I purposely left his name out of it and his treatment center out of it. Okay. Sam is the one who decided to bring his full name into it. I don't think that was very fair to Jason, in my honest opinion, that Sam did that. He could have said, we met in St. Augustine, and left Jason out of it. Because there's a lot of people with bad feelings, on both sides of this. And I think, you need to not include, you can avoid including certain people in this if it really doesn't involve them. And this drama really did not involve Jason. So, Jason, if you hear this, this is no hate towards you. I'm just telling this story. And so Sam was in town, and I happened to be off, and my husband went with me there. And so I went. He wanted me to meet Jason. He said, talked about Jason and his trauma and therapy and all this stuff. And that was the whole thing was we talked. Sam talked like it was normal conversation. So I mean, I don't care if he says that I talked the entire time, but we were there, we never had lunch, literally conversation flowed between everyone, I feel like the entire time, and that it was a good day. And then of course, what everyone knows, we had done this dance. I really liked Sam. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did. I felt like I had made the right choice and trusting him. And like I've talked about openly, what he did after my daughter left, when I left him out of all of this, and him calling me names, and I mean, it was just so unprofessional, because I looked at him as a professional, even though I did not hire him. He never had to offer to help. That was something he didn't have to do. And so, it's kind of like, I know on his website, he asks people for donations so that basically they can do pro bono work for people who need an interventionist. That's something new. How is that any different than what he did for us? I mean, my daughter never met him. She had never spoken to him. But you're taking on a professional role. You especially are taking on a professional role when the facility is requiring my daughter to sign a release of information to you. That wasn't my request. That wasn't her request. That was the facility, because you work with that facility in a professional manner, Sam. So yes, if we go to court over this, the judge is going to feel the same way, I can assure you. That facility had my daughter sign a release of information to you in a professional capacity. She never knew you. Why would, that's something that can easily be justified and proven. She never talked to you once. She never met you. And that is where you significantly crossed a line, and you showed very unethical behavior. Yes, she signed the release of information, but a release of information, Sam, and I know you're not dumb. You are not a dumb person, regardless of your struggles. You are not a dumb person. that does not give you the right to share anything on social media. And I know you know what you did. And I know you know the hot water that you would be in by admitting it. But you could have ended this all a long time ago if you had just admitted that you fucked up and you made a mistake. But your pride got in the way and you wouldn't do it. You would think I would be angry watching that live when I watched it. I didn't. If anything, also, like, the people in comments who have followed me and acted like supporters, they're all blocked now. Like, it was able to show me the true, who some of these people are that act like they care. So they're blocked. They'll all go and make fake accounts again, but more or less they're blocked. It's very hard for me to make friends. It didn't used to be, but it's very hard for me to make friends since going through this. And my family, we really kind of keep to ourselves. And I wanted to make some friends through social media, but it's so hard to know who to trust. And we got fucked over by Sam. I mean, we did, and it hurt. It really did. I'm trying to think what else he talked about. He had talked about the therapist and then me talking too much. Let's see, what else did this man talk about? Him doing what he did as far as the dosing and all that stuff and throwing a number out there as far as the MAT, he's backtracking. I know he was in direct contact with the owners. He knows he was in direct contact with the owners. I mean, the text messages prove that. So I know that he knew specific information, which he denied in that. I will end up getting her medical files from there because my daughter, at some point, she will want to get sober again, and we will do the POA. And we will get the medical files from there. Hopefully they won't be altered, but it wouldn't surprise me if in some ways they were. When you list a specific dosing, who says that? Like, come on. Who goes and puts that when you miss 30 doses, as he commented, and then says she wouldn't wait to get her stuff? It's not implying, like, people in general. It's my daughter. It's answering a question. He replied to a comment and he's answering a question. And then he answered a question to a stranger. But then he also, when my daughter went in his comments, which he had talked about, he admitted it there that he did it. He said yes. And I'm not that, although she wasn't, a client. And I mean, he admitted it, and he even admitted it on the live, just reading those comments, and said, he shouldn't have said that. Yeah, Sam, you think? You shouldn't have said that. I mean, come on. There were things he had no right to say about my daughter in that live last night. He could have told the story and he could have gone about it without really talking about her and her not being a delicate flower. Once again, you're a professional and you're going to go on your live and you're going to talk about that. That's not being a professional. And you refused to go live with me when I didn't want to fight with you. And I know I wasn't going to fight with you. I would have let you speak. I just wanted to ask questions. I mean, I don't go live with a lot of people, but when I do, I let people speak. I mean, and then I will jump in. I don't want to talk over people. But you just don't want to answer the questions that I want to ask publicly, and that's what it comes down to. I may post that live on my YouTube. I'm debating on it. I think it's good information for people to see. I don't think it shows him in a very good light. I will say that. But I think that families need to go in aware, especially when you're on social media, that, money is what drives everything. People will act like they really care about you and they care about your loved one, but ultimately it's the almighty dollar that they care about. But I don't know. I hope this answers some questions. I don't want to continue to make videos about this on social media. I just don't. I think based off of what he said, he'll eventually, karma will bite him in the ass. Honestly, I believe that, because if that is what he does at some point, it's going to catch up to him with other families and things like that. I mean, he's the one that has to answer to the maker when he passes. So if you can live with yourself and go to sleep every night, being happy with the work you accomplished and the money you made, that's on you, buddy. I hope, if anything, Sam, if you listen to this, I hope that you maybe reflect on why you originally went into this to help people and get back to that motive. It's, social media isn't all it's cracked up to be, I'm sure you've learned. And the larger your following, I want to make you aware of this, the larger your following, if there are other people and families you have harmed, you're going to have more people looking at you and looking into you. Families will come forward if you have hurt them. And I just want to make you aware of that. And there are trolls who will investigate the hell out of you. And you just have to prepare yourself that when you put yourself out publicly like you are doing, you may end up not getting the kind of following that you want or the attention you're seeking. So I hope everyone has a great day, and vacation starts next week, and I'm looking forward to it. Take care. Bye.